I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Government Operations Committee, the Government Operations Subcommittee of the Health and Government Operations Committee. We are taking up several bills. We will begin with House Bill 770 / Senate Bill 326, which is the Baltimore City Community College Procurement Authority. Council, Tyler.
Morning, everyone. House Bill 770, which is still identical to its cross-file Senate Bill 326, expands the current procurement authority for Baltimore City Community College, or BCCC, after the college goes through certain procedures, including developing their own guidelines and policies with their Board of Trustees and getting those procurement policies approved by the Board of Public Works and the AELR Committee. And then moving forward, they would have expanded procurement authority. There is an amendment being offered by the House bill sponsor, Delegate McIntosh, which would modify the extent of that procurement authority expansion. So with the amendment, the procurement authority would be comparable to most community colleges within the state as far as the size of contracts that would not need review but then also still the scope of oversight and necessary review for larger contracts and certain capital projects. Those would all still go through BPW and similar procurement oversight and advisory bodies.
If I'm reading this correctly, it would provide that less than $100,000 is approved just by the president of the college, $100,000 to $500,000 is approved by the president and the board, and above that would be approved the board of the community college. And above that amount would be approved by the Board of Public Works. Is that correct?
I believe those numbers are correct.
Okay. Yes, Delegate Zaliga and then Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was on appropriations for 4 years back in 2011 when I first got elected. And the reason that these procurement responsibilities were removed from the Baltimore City Community College was because they were not doing a good job. Do we know if some of those things have been remedied, and because of that, should we ask for a report or somehow make sure that we're continuing with the accountability issues that were put in place?
It's a valid question. Based on my conversations that I've had with the chair of appropriations, she clearly thinks that they are a far better run institution. She would be not only supported, she introduced the bill. So I think that does give some indication of clearly of her view as to how the college is now being run.
Can we is there a sunset on this so we can come back and make sure that's what's going on? I mean, it was a mess. It was a real mess to the point that they took all of the privileges away from them. Tyler, is there a sunset on this, or is it just going to make a permanent change?
Yeah, I'm not seeing a sunset provision in it. None of this would go into effect until it's been approved by AELR and the Board of Public Works, so that they feel that the procedures and oversight going into place are effective. So it is not immediately going in. It still needs some work and then final sign off by BTW and AELR, but there's no sunset in it.
Mr. Chairman, would you entertain say a 5-year review or sunset so we can come back and take a look at it again after, and if it's going well and those problems have been remedied, it'll be, an easy removal of the sunset.
If that's the will of the committee,
I would offer an amendment to just put a sunset in 5 years after, because Tyler said it, does after approval by those said bodies, so that the legislature can continue to make sure that we're continuing accountability on that college.
I understand. Well, when the time comes, we will certainly accept. You can certainly offer that.
Okay.
Yes. Delegate Kipke and then Delegate Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious if there's any audit, third-party audit provisions for any of our community colleges. I would hope that there might be. I don't know. It seems appropriate that with what Delegate Szeliga is talking about, this college should have some type of auditing mechanism. And then my second thought was, I'm curious if there's, based on what I know about the history there, if there's any type of policy as it relates to procurement and conflict of interest, whether it be with the Board of Trustees or administration officials. So I'm curious if any of that is being taken into account with what they're going to bring to AELR and DPW.
So I'll mention, I can double check the extent of it if you would like, but my understanding is that OLA audits all government agencies on a reoccurring basis. So in addition to if, such as like the Joint Committee on Audits and Review or other similar bodies in the General Assembly request audits, there is going to be some, at least on some recurring basis, but there could certainly be requests for more frequent ones if there are any concerns after these go into place. As far as the specifics for their plans, I do see there are a few representatives from BCCC, so if they have, maybe they could speak to specifics of the plans for their procurement rules that they're thinking of putting into place. I would defer to them since I haven't been part of those conversations and planning. And then I do also see a hand from Delegate Johnson. I'll just point that out for Delegate Rosenberg.
Certainly. President.
Yeah, before they speak, could you, Tyler, find out for sure what the
Sure.
OLA audit and whether or not it specifically looks at procurement? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Delegate Johnson and then President McCurdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern is a mixture of what Delegate Szeliga and Delegate Kipke has said. As we've seen in our committee, when you remove oversight, sooner or later, things happen. So Delegate Szeliga talked about sunsetting, Delegate Kipke talked about audits. I was wondering if we do put the sunset in, if there could be an audit before that sunsets so we could get a report back when we look at that sunset to make a decision then.
Perhaps President McCurdy knows, my understanding is that audits are done of every state agency. I believe it's every 3 years. And the community college, I believe, is a state agency. But perhaps President McCurdy, you can speak to those issues and any other issues.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
and good morning, and thank you as well, Delegate Rosenberg and committee. Hearing all of your comments, and the college is no secret, has had some past issues. We've just come through an OLA audit, so we are a state agency, so we do come through the process. Chief Finance Officer is also on the screen, Ms. Shauna Williams, but we're under the realignment to change this institution, and I've been there just a little under 2 years, and we have made substantive change. There has to be a time when we have that opportunity to move this college forward. We cannot continue to be held under a past reputation when the past 2 years we have, I think, demonstrated remarkable progress at this institution with regard to standards that and requirements that one would expect to see at any institution, and that's the way the college is run. We've changed out our entire administration. The next level down is being changed out as well. We serve a population that's in tremendous need of the resources that we are burdened with not being able to provide. Not asking anything of the legislature other than what other institutions have to provide us with the opportunity to move this college forward. There's no way we can continue to move the college forward when we are under such a tremendous strain. I understand the past practices at this institution. When you talk about conflicts of interest and so forth with board and others, Those are all standard things. For me as the president of this institution, those things are unheard of for me to run an institution where you don't pay attention to conflicts of interest and some of the other inefficiencies, inappropriate operations that went on at this institution. We've come a long way, and we will continue to grow and move the institution forward in the way that is expected. And Ms. Williams, if you want to talk about the audit and what you're doing to move this forward as well.
Yes, could I ask, if I may, as chair, what was, if you could summarize what that audit said and when was it issued?
So we're currently under the OLA audit right now. So the audit happens every 4 years. So we're currently still in motion. We have not been presented with a final report or any findings as we're still undergoing that audit.
Those of us who are on the administration now, Mr. Chair, we are recovering from whatever past practices the institution had. And so remember that the audit covers the 4 previous years.
Mm-hmm.
So we are cleaning up all of the past practices and operations and moving all of that forward in the way that meets standards. I think with both Delegate McIntosh and as well, Senator Hayes coming forward to co-sponsor the bill, having very direct communications with us. All of the information on the realignment goes back to the joint chairs. We've met all those requirements. We have a new ERP coming in. We have met the requirement for producing our enrollment documents, our realignment documents, our ERP documents. We've just come through not just the OLA audit, the institutional audit, the foundation audit. We're moving forward with the strategic planning. And I'm not certain how much more we can burden this institution with without getting consideration to give us the relief and the freedoms to operate in a way that will allow us to be effective.
Mr. Chairman.
If I may first, does that audit include, I know it includes prior leadership, a period of time when prior leadership was running institution. Does it also include part of the time when you were leading the institution in terms of the contrast that it might present?
Shauna, that the period of time goes back, it's 2016 to what period of time?
Right. It's for the last audit was issued to the college in 2017. So this would be from 2017 through December 2020. And so that overlaps the president's and the current administration maybe by.
If I may, Delegate Rosenberg, just to clarify,
Yes,
respond to some prior questions. Yes, confirming from the state government article, it's every 3 to 4 years that OLA will audit every unit, and it will look at fiscal activities, complexity of the unit's fiscal structure, and then also says that the audit will look at findings from the prior audit of that unit. So in this case, it would particularly look at any concerns, fiscal or otherwise, that came up in prior audits, were the most recent audits before this one of the community college. So it should cover the concerns being raised. And then if there were a 5-year sunset implemented, as I know was proposed earlier, there would be at least one more audit before that came up without General Assembly having to request a second one.
Delegate Hill and then Delegate Kipke.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Madam President, for being here. I think that it's really difficult to ask the college to stand up while we still have our foot holding them down. I think the audit process that's already set up is appropriate. I don't think we have to add additional sunset reviews because we are doing ongoing monitoring. We have control over the budget every year. And I would really resist an additional amendment and think we ought to go ahead and give them the tools that they need to move forward. The question I have for the president is, has there been a change of the board? And if so, what percentage of the board has had a turnover since you've come aboard?
The board currently is led by Kurt Smoke, and I believe we have had 2 turnovers, one as I was coming in the door and one with an individual leaving the, I believe, the state of Maryland. So I think the board members, strong reputation. This is not the same board that was here several years ago with the realignment. I believe there are no members, if any. There might be one, but basically it's an entire new board of 9 individuals.
Thank you.
Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to be clear, the questions being asked are not directed at the new folks there, but it would not be wise or appropriate not to at least play the devil's advocate in asking some of these questions, as it's our responsibility to make sure that, you know, public funds are handled with the highest standards. So just as a follow-up to the conflict of interest, do you have any written policies as it relates to board members of the board, or trustees, administration? You know, are there written affidavits for conflict of interest? I know you mentioned that, of course, you're doing these things, but could you more specifically clarify what it is that you're doing?
In terms of a conflict of interest, the board has a bylaws that should contain, we will certainly check and see, administration are not signing direct conflicts of interest, but they come up under the regulations of the state. If it's another policy that we need to separate out, then I have no issue with immediately putting forth a conflict of interest statement for administrators as well. I understand the nature of your questions with regard to what went on at this institution prior to my arrival. I was asked to come here to do the job differently, and that's what is being done. So your questions do not surprise me at all. The only thing that I'm saying is that it is a new place, it is a new day, and it's being run in the manner in which it should. If we've had some violations since I've arrived, those people have been separated from this institution. I came in, that's what was stated. This is a new day. You will no longer operate in silos in the capacity that you had before. Those days are gone. And all I can do is say that to this committee and put my own reputation behind it. If there are infractions, then we are rooting those out, and people are either being disciplined appropriately or separated from this institution. It's no different than any other place where you run it according to legitimate practice. So for me, as a new president still, I haven't been there 2 years, to have to listen to people at the legislative level asking the kinds of, and making the kinds of pronouncements that you make and have made. I'm not disagreeing with what you've said. I'm only saying that it is a new day and the change is here that you asked to be done legislatively. And I would ask that you not expect that this college be forced to wait years before we can put things back on track and operate in a way to serve the most underrepresented population in the state. We can't have it both ways.
Madam President, I appreciate your passion and drive to make that community college one of the best in the state and the nation. I hear your passion. I just, as a thought, when we went through the scandals at the University of Maryland Medical System, it seemed that a lot of their problems were related to not having written policies where, you know, people of influence would have to affirmatively put on the record in writing any conflicts of interest so that others there would be aware of it. So I don't know if there's a way to consult with the Department of Legislative Services might be the best way to go, because they were very involved in that. They're auditors. They might be able to provide some guidance for free that would be very helpful just for you to consider to have some additional safeguards. So that puts the onus on administration officials and the trustees to, you know, it puts it on them and not the institution, just so that everybody knows, you know, how they could or could not, you know, there might be conflicts. So, but again, thank you for your passion. It certainly is needed. And I'm very happy to see that you're working so hard there, and to everybody else on your team that's working so hard to make it a beautiful beacon of education for our city and other resources. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Hill, then we'll proceed to whether there are any amendments to be offered and consideration of the bill, action on the bill. Delegate Hill.
All right, thank you very much, Madam President. I do have one more question following up on this line. What changes in policy or protocols have you made to ensure that with the next leadership, whether it's 2 years or 20 years from now, the next president comes on board, things won't revert? So you've come on, make changes. How has that been institutionalized?
The institutionalization of the policies are exactly what you're saying. They are going now through the board so that we can properly track policy that is changed at this institution are come under the responsibility of the board, not the individual units at the institution. Doesn't matter if it's administration, faculty, or staff. Policy belongs to the Board of Trustees. And that's what will be appropriately documented in terms of the policy, when the policy was made, and then the complementary procedures as well. So it certainly was an issue as I've arrived at the institution. Ms. Williams can certainly attest to some of that as well, in terms of people confusing policy with procedure and who makes policy. That is the role of the administration to present that to the board for the Board of Trustees approval.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you. Yes. Are there any amendments that a member wishes to offer? Delegate Johnson? Or no, your hand is up or down?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I would still, unless you would like to do it, Delegate Shalega had the sunset recommendation, and they are going to have an audit right before then. Even though we want them to operate and be able to function on the same level as every other community college, there has been an issue, and we do have a responsibility to the taxpayers to look after taxpayer dollars. So I would still like to see that put in place, just to check back and make sure everything is going according to plan. And that's not a slight on any of the current administration. That's just us doing our job and living up to our responsibility. Thank you, Mr.
There you go.
I would like to second Delegate Johnson's amendment to put I think we were saying 5-year sunset, so we can look back and make sure, as Delegate Johnson said, I'm delighted that President McCurdy's, really tackling this and facing it head on, and we can come alongside and make sure that that's happening with the sunset.
Is there discussion on that amendment? There will be an audit, another audit between now and that period, that 5-year sunset. There is also review annually of the budget by the budget committees. Delegate Chisholm.
I would just like to voice my support in that amendment, because I think once we get to the sunset, to then remove it or extend it is procedurally one of the easiest things we can do, and it's just an extra layer of protection. It doesn't have any negative effect on the community college at this point. I just think it's the prudent, smart governmental thing to do to put that extra protection in there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to ask all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by having your hand raised using the software. 1, 2, 3. Delegate Johnson, I assume you're for it? 4 in support. All those opposed to the amendment, please so indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and 4, the amendment fails.
I think it's 3 and 4, Mr. Chairman. I see 3 hands against.
I tried to indicate mine. I'm sorry. There we go. I apologize. I thought I had. It's 4 and 4. So the amendment fails. Is there a motion on the bill?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
Maybe this is for Tyler. Do we have anything in the bill that requires that when they come to AELR and BPW, there be a explanation of what their conflict of interest procedures are, their policy?
I don't believe the bill gets into that detail.
So it's what does it require be presented?
Allow me to pull up my notes for it. Here we go. It speaks generally to the policies and procedures governing procurements for the college,
I'd like to offer
information technology standards and policies for those,
Okay.
and being compliant with the statewide information technology plan.
Okay, good. With that first line, I'd like to add a comma to include conflict of interest policies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Second. Okay. Delegate Johnson, are you speaking to that motion?
And I guess if I could just ask Ms. McCurdy, do you have any opposition to that? Are you okay with providing that to us? We certainly can direct you to some resources in that area. I just want to make sure we know what the written policies are for the community college.
It's a delegate, that's a non-issue for the college. It's something that would normally be in place and expected.
Great, thank you.
So you're okay with it?
Yes, sir. You're simply talking about having a policy to demonstrate that we have
Right.
conflict of interest, regulations, requirements for both the board of trustees and administration.
As soon as this mission is over,
That's right.
Okay. Delegate Johnson, thank you, Madam. Delegate
Thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we're not going to do a sunset, I don't know if they do this currently. If not, I would like to put an amendment that they at least come back to the committee with a report after the next audit.
There is if I may, I'm pretty sure, having served as, a long time ago as the chair of legislative audits, there is a response from the, as part of the audit process. There is a mandatory response from the entity that has been reviewed by the auditor, and that is a public document and is available to all members of the legislature and the public.
All right, thank you, Mr.
It's
Chairman.
already done. That's already done. Okay, all those in favor of Delegate Kipke's amendment, which would add the conflict of interest language in terms of approval by Board of Public Works, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? There are none opposed. That is added.
I'd like to move the bill as
Bill is
amended.
amended. It was moved by Delegate Hill and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Is anyone opposed to the amended bill? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. Okay, we'll now go to Senate Bill 353. Veterans Benefits and Appeals of Services, Disclosure Requirements. Council?
Senate Bill 353 would require attorneys who are going to charge a fee for legal services to veterans who are seeking veterans benefits to provide a certain written disclosure that there are free services available for veterans, and in advertising for paid legal services, there will be some sort of disclosure of the availability of free services as well. This bill was addressed briefly last week before being held.
Is there any discussion at this time?
Move the bill.
Move the bill.
Bill is moved. All those in favor? Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That bill moves unanimously, as did the other eventually. Okay. Senate Bill 360. State Government Notaries Public Notary Public Fund and Remote Notarial Acts.
Thank you for handling the title. Senate Bill 360 sets up a special fund and provides for use of that special fund. According to the fiscal note, it's fiscally neutral. It's the money that would be generated would normally go to the general fund and is now just going to be dedicated to this special fund for the provided uses in the bill.
And could you quickly or briefly, what are those uses?
Generally, maintenance and maintenance or conducting of the Secretary of State's oversight of notaries public and support of their works.
Okay. Any debate? Delegate Zaliga.
Does it raise the fee for notaries?
It does not change the fee.
Okay, just, I think at one point they were trying to modernize their computer, which I don't even think they had an IT system. So they were well behind the curve. So this is probably a good thing that will make sure that they get that modernized and up to speed.
Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the testimony that was provided, the Maryland Land Title Association suggested there be an amendment offered. Has that been considered?
Council, do you know what that amendment?
I haven't seen anyone introduce it. I can pull it up and try and see it. But I haven't been aware of anyone offering the amendment.
Okay, well, I'm certainly supportive of the bill. I just don't know if we, I'm looking at the amendment right now. I don't even know what the amendment does. So I guess what I would say is maybe we could move forward. And in the meantime, Mr. Chairman, I can reach out to the Maryland Land Title Association to ask for some clarity. And then if it's an important amendment, we can consider it with the full committee, or if you'd prefer, we could hold it until, either way, it's fine with me. I just want to make sure it's brought up for consideration at some point.
With that proviso, I would suggest that we move the bill, and we certainly respect, that you would be bringing that to, and understand you would be bringing that to the attention of the full committee.
And it's simple enough. I'll be able to have a solid answer of whether I think that's an appropriate amendment. It's technical of nature. So I'll have a conclusive answer as whether it would be necessary to make sure there's no confusion, or if, maybe there's interpretations, rules that provide for why the bill is okay as it is drafted. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
You're the best. Thanks, Tyler.
Okay, is there a motion on the bill, unamended?
Move the bill.
So moved.
When my
Seconded.
son got COVID,
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it is unanimous. Okay, Senate Bill 649. Procurement MB Program Compliance Review and Oversight. Council?
Senate Bill 649 requires state agencies to submit specified contracts valued at $1 million or more to the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs for review and approval of minority business enterprise goals and sub-goals established for that contract. State agencies must also make a good faith effort to solicit at least one bid from certified MBE for category 2 and 3 small procurements, requires prospective contractors to attend a pre-bid or pre-proposal meeting as a prerequisite to submitting a bid or proposal, expands annual reporting requirements for GOSPA, and requires the Department of Legislative Services to study implementation of statutory and regulatory requirements within the state's MBE program. And then DLS will report on their findings in December 15, by December 15, 2021. And then there's a contingency within the bill. The bill itself takes effect July 1st, but then provisions related to the expanded oversight responsibilities of GOSBA take effect July 1st, 2022, contingent on a statutory extension of the MBE program, because that itself has a sunset, I believe, coming up next year. So if the General Assembly decides to not extend the MBE program, then there wouldn't be the oversight by GOSBA for the MBE program as provided for in the bill. And I'm aware of one amendment if you want to address that or discuss the bill as it stands first.
Well, just so we know, what is that additional amendment? So first off, the bill that we have in front of us that you made available to everyone is the Senate bill as amended by the Senate. Is that correct?
Correct. It has a House cross file that we actually didn't have a hearing on. So Senate Bill 649, the summary I gave is as it was amended by the Senate. So it is substantially different from how it was introduced in the House cross file, which is why we're just addressing Senate Bill 649. There was a hearing on it as amended last week.
Okay.
And then the amendment.
What would the amendment do? And has that amendment been provided to us?
Yeah, it should have been. It was emailed to everyone yesterday, and then again this morning around 8:30. It was. It takes a provision from House Bill 1214 that you all might remember from discussing that bill. So the provision there that would be added from this amendment requires GOSBA to assign staff to sort of liaison with procurement units throughout the state and help both oversee their compliance with MBE guidelines and then also serve as a consultant to help procurement units understand MBE regulations and policies and ensure that they're following them accurately.
Okay. And do you know if this amendment has been discussed with the Senate?
I've heard indications that the Senate is amenable to it, but I don't want to speak on their behalf.
Understood. I appreciate that. Delegate Chisholm.
And this is for Tyler, maybe what he just explained goes into detail. The part of the bill that says require prospective contractors to attend a pre-bid or pre-proposal meeting as a prerequisite to submitting a bid or proposal. Do we know what's discussed in those pre-bid meetings? And is that when they're assigned somewhat of a consultant to follow them through the process? I guess my question is the pre-bid meeting to help them fill out the contract or the required paperwork correctly, and then to assign them a consultant to try to walk them through it so that they become, I guess, more engaged in the process and better to fill out the forms the next time?
That's my understanding, is that it wouldn't be, until there is like a bid for proposals, and then and then in that process having the pre-bid and then interested vendors, contractors, offerers would meet and then could be assigned someone to help them understand the prerequisites and the procedure as how it'll work moving forward.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there further discussion on the amendment or on the bill? Delegate Saliga.
So I'm confused about the amendment. I'm reading the interlineated third reader. Is that what we're talking about? The amendment / is this third reader version of the bill, or is there something different I'm supposed to be looking at?
Yeah, the interlineated version is Senate Bill 649 as it was passed by the Senate with this amendment being offered.
So I'm as clear as mud. So what you said is I'm supposed to be looking at and the public probably can't even have access to this. So this subcommittee is supposed to be looking at the version that you emailed us.
Yes, which it gets sent out to all interested stakeholders or anyone that we know has testified and is, planning on attending. We make sure they also receive the amendments for review and comment.
And the
Okay,
amendment
and-
has also been made available to us.
Sure, but not the public, just a small point of clarification. So I would go back to page 4 that Delegate Chisholm was talking about. Require prospective contractors to attend a pre-bid or pre-proposal meeting. Why are we doing that? If this is somebody that bids on these things, why do they have to attend this? Should it say, encourage them or may attend, but why are we saying they're required to attend a pre-bid?
So that's a policy take or position. My understanding of the intent of the policy is just make sure that all of the contractor or potential contractors are aware, and that there may be information that the procurement units want to ensure all of the applicants, everyone proposing, submitting a bid, are aware of. And so I think that might have been the intent that they are, as the Senate passed it, is that they would want, there's going to be information in that pre-bid, pre-proposal meeting that the procurement unit wants to be sure any applicants are aware of. And so they're going to require attendance with the meeting so that they can make sure that that information is made clear, which would then probably make for a smoother procurement process, because then everyone would know what the process is going to be and that there won't be any hiccups or issues later with maybe entities thinking that they understood the process, had a issue and have to go to an appeal, which might slow things down. That would be my best guess as an interpretation for that rule. I don't know if, unfortunately, I don't think I see the bill sponsor here to speak on that.
And did we hear back from any of the departments? Like, I think there was opposition testimony. Did we hear back from any of the folks that, let me look real quick. There was, where was it? Here we go. It looks like DGS weighed in with a number of bulleted points. Did we hear back? Have they taken a look at this amended version?
Yes, my understanding is the amended version doesn't address most of their, or I think any of their concerns, because they're mostly speaking of the duplicative nature. I did, in reviewing Senate testimony, that while they understand DGS sees it as duplicative, some of the members of the Senate who are supportive of the bill see it as a second layer of oversight to ensure that rules are being followed and that procurements are being made appropriately. So that was their response. That they didn't feel that it was duplicative in a negative way, but duplicative in a extra safety way, is my understanding of how the Senate, or at least some members of the Senate, supported it.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Okay, this amendment is in my name to be offered today. So if I may, I would like to offer the amendment 186581/1. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Okay, any further debate on this amendment?
I just want to note, I never received it and I've been listening to the conversation, but so I'm just going to follow along. Thank you.
Okay. If I believe, Tyler, was this amendment made, because my staff was able to just print it out. Was this?
Yeah, it was sent out first yesterday evening, and then again this morning, since I had another amendment to add in also. for the list. So, but I'll send it to, I think I have a additional email.
I mean, I've listened.
Some I know.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to I mean, I'm looking at my laptop. I've listened to the conversation and I can look at, I mean, it's fine going ahead with the vote. I just wanted that to be known that I really, have just had to listen to the conversation because I don't have anything to look at. Thank you.
Tyler, isn't it included in the interlineated version? Isn't that what you said?
Both.
Amendment that Delegate Rosenberg is offering as part of that?
Yeah, so I attached it as just the amendment and then
So
within
Delegate
the
Hill,
edited copy.
if you have that interlineated version that Tyler sent, it's incorporated in that.
Okay, my staff just forwarded me something from 9:47 this morning. So I'll take a look at that. Thank you. Okay, thank you, all.
Okay. All those in favor of my amendment 186581/1, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
So move.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed to the bill as amended? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you all very much. We will now go to Senator Sidnor's bill. Senate Bill 689, Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, Duties of the Special Secretary, Minority Business Enterprises.
Senate Bill 689 establishes a mentoring program for startup and small MBEs, provides training for prime contractors, and establishes an annual rewards program to recognize localities that demonstrate excellence in MBE support. And it requires a study on the feasibility of providing individual assistance for MBEs while submitting competitive bids and proposals.
Was there a cross file?
No.
Okay. And how is this bill as introduced?
I can double check, but I'm not.
Well, and also what was the vote in the Senate?
I can speak a little bit to.
Oh, yes, please. Mr. Clark, I apologize for not calling upon. Please.
Thank you.
Clark from Senator.
On behalf of Senator Sitnar, of course, we would want to just simply make a few comments in terms of 689. It is almost a companion bill with respect to the one that you just heard, which is 649. And it passed, of course, out of the committee. I can't give you the vote, but it passed with a super majority in terms of the Senate itself. The key things here is that according to the idea of MBEs is that we want to be sure that in fact that the MBE program is in fact strengthened, and the major way of doing that is by the mentorship program, as indicated in the prior bill when they come before for the pre-bid. That in fact that there's a sense of that they would have help in terms of devising their response in terms of to that particular bid that's out there. The implementation, of course, of the mentorship program would increase the networking and the other kinds of things, education opportunities, and then the recognition of those mentors. And to that end, they're looking at the technical assistance being available, having to do with the program coming from the MB program, as well as looking at the localities in which they are located. And we look forward to having a minority business report. And as a result of all of that on an annual basis, they want to have a real celebration kind of a thing in terms of rewarding those folks who have participated in those programs to give a sense of a continuity and continuance to those programs. So that's the reason that the Senator Sitnar has put this forward and would actually ask the committee to move forward with respect to its approval.
And I'll just add to clarify Eugene's remarks, I confirm the Senate voted unanimously on this bill.
Thank you. Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is, I'm looking at the bill and it says, establish a mentoring program in which larger and more established minority business enterprises can mentor startup and small minority businesses, which sounds great. I guess my question is, would the larger and the more established be concerned of losing business to the startups that they're mentoring? Or is it more of they're trying to, I guess, educate them, give them the institutional knowledge of how to fill these out, get a contract for some of the contracts that the bigger, more established may not want?
There's no process in terms of, this is not a competitive process. It's based upon what we received in terms of testimony on this particular bill. The minority businesses that are there that are receiving contracts, they have no problem with respect to mentoring those smaller businesses or so that are coming forward, because indeed that will add to their presence and would give also the Maryland an opportunity, of course, to reach the goals that it has established for MBE programs. And indeed, even as we look forward, as we look to it, that's the reason for the celebration, of course, annually, of those companies who decide to come forward and to be of assistance in terms of growing. We believe that there's enough business in Maryland to grow the program so that everybody can be a part of it. It grows employment, it grows businesses, and so in the minority communities, which of course will help everyone. So I don't think there's a downside to it.
So we actually have some MBE businesses that are already established that have been engaged and understand the bill and are fully willing to participate. Am I to understand that?
Yes, I can tell you that, yes, based on the testimony.
Okay. Delegate Johnson and then Delegate Zaliga.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clark, would this not help groom and get some folks in line to be subcontractors for these larger contractors, to help the contractors all the way around fulfill some of the requirements that are difficult to do now with minority subcontractors?
That is absolutely correct, sir, because again, we oftentimes hear the prime contractors report and say that they can't find minority contractors in order to fulfill certain aspects of the RFP. So we believe that would help them to at least to groom them, and that's the reason that there's an educational component within the bill, so that they can get the training and other things that's necessary in order to be able to bid even on future contracts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Delegate Zaliga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you tell us anything about the fiscal note? It seems overstated. It says that it's going to take 2 positions to, carry out this bill. Do you think we can do that with less, or what are your thoughts on that?
Not do it correctly. Maryland is a large state. It has over 6 million people within the state. If you intend to grow the program and do all the things that's indicated in the bill, everything from the educational components in terms of that, networking, et cetera, one person cannot do the whole job. And so we believe that 2 people, quite frankly, is a very modest number, considering the kinds of things that we are going to be asking the MBE program to perform.
Do you anticipate that they'll be reporting back to us? Is there some provision in the bill where they can report back to us on the success of the program?
No, but I think that this bill is derived from the bipartisan report of the Senate President's Advisory Work Group on equity and inclusion. And of course, that with those recommendations that were put forward in that report, we believe that we will be taking a look at those kinds of things, because again, our own Department of Legislative Services will of course be there to ensure that that these things are being carried out. So we don't believe that there's necessarily the need for an overlay in terms of others for them to report back on to us with respect to that.
Thank you.
Okay. We're beginning to lose membership because we have caucuses at 10, so I'd like to see if we can move this,
Move the bill.
move the
Move
bill.
the bill.
Motion to move the bill, seconded.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It carries. Delegate Eckhart, or Senator Eckhart, I don't think we're going to be able to take your bill up, nor Senator Hester, but I will say we will meet. This has to be worked out in coordination with other things going on in the committee. We will meet either later today or tomorrow morning would be my preference, so that we can expedite things. But I would appreciate everyone's hard work this morning, and we will provide notice as to when we are reconvening. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.